from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Ayotunde Balogun.
Hello and welcome. Tonight, drama at Upper Legislative Chamber as Senate Committee rejects petition on alleged sexual harassment submitted by Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. Battle for the soul of Rivers politics continues as House of Assembly summons Chairman of State Electoral Commission over the conduct of the 2024 local government elections, even as the Commission announces date for fresh elections. Vice President Kashim Shettima performs groundbreaking ceremony for First Bank's 40-story new headquarters complex at the Eko Atlantic City. And U.S. officials confirmed that President Trump has suspended intelligence sharing with Ukraine, in addition to the pause in military assistance.
And on business, Nigeria achieves new milestone in power generation, hits record 6,003 megawatts.
On sports news tonight, FIFA is set to give a record more than $1 billion as prize money to 32 clubs participating at the Club World Cup.
From the nation's capital, bandits kill Catholic priest kidnapped on Tuesday in Kaura local government area of Kaduna State.
We begin from the Senate today as lawmakers gather to witness the saga between Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan and Senator Godswill Akpabio at the upper chamber, not really knowing what exactly to expect. In a rather tense atmosphere, the lady in the eye of the storm, Senator Natasha, soon arrived as plenary resumed. And while all eyes were fixed on her, President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, who began proceedings, denied allegations of sexual harassment claim made against him by Senator Akpoti-Uduaghan. Our National Assembly correspondent, Gloria Umezoke, now reports.
Dramatic scenes unfold at the gate of the National Assembly in the early hours of Wednesday, March 5th, as supporters of Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan stage a protest against the President of the Senate. The demonstration took a tense turn as security operatives fired tear gas to disperse the crowd. Amidst the tension, the senator representing Kogi Central Senatorial District arrives the National Assembly complex in the company of her husband.
Oh, good morning.
She proceeds to settle down in her newly assigned seat, which was a nodal point of the ongoing controversy. And as the Senate president makes his way into the chamber, she did not offer him the customary gesture for presiding officers. The president of the Senate, Senator Godswill Akpabio, started plenary by dismissing allegations of sexual harassment. This is the first time he would be commenting on the issue since the allegation was made public by the Kogi lawmaker.
I would like to state clearly that at no time did I ever attempt any sexual harassment on the said distinguished Senator Akpoti-Uduaghan or any other woman for that matter. I have the highest regards for women. I also wish to state that I also have 4 beautiful daughters. So at no time will I ever harass any woman. Even as a state governor, I was awarded various awards. One of them was the one you wish to know, the most gender-friendly governor in Nigeria.
Immediately after, Senator Akpoti-Uduaghan invokes Order 40, raising a petition.
The petition is in my name against the President of the Nigerian Senate, His Excellency Senator Godswill Akpabio, for sexual harassment, abuse of office, and malicious obstruction of my legislative functions. So if it may please you, I would humbly step forward and lay this petition.
You may proceed.
In a twist, the Senate's chief whip reads the rules, laying the foundation for what will be the eventual rejection of the petition.
An unambiguous terms in Rule 40 and specifically Rule 7 states that Senate should not receive or deliberate on any matter to which actions are pending in any court of law.
There is an immediate pushback from Senator Akpoti Uduaghan.
I beg to differ that this matter is sub judice. And I stand on privilege 10, order 10, which is on privileges.
Sorry.
No, dear Senate President, please, with due respect, do you mind? I have raised an order 10, privileges, sir, please. So permit me to speak without my microphone being silenced, dear sir, President of the Nigerian Senate. Order 10 on privileges.
Coincidentally, I'm hearing you.
Your refusal to accept and treat my petition before the Senate Committee on Ethics and Privileges and Abuse of my privileges, and I say forth that this matter is not subject, it is not before the court. The matter before the court is on the defamation and cyberbullying statements made by your special assistant on new media, Mr. Patrick Conform.
Tension again escalates as the Senate's procedures are debated.
Section 47 and the other sections that have been quoted by my learned brother there should be the responsibility of that committee. So close the matter, hand over to the committee, then the committee will be privileged to look on the rules and then take whatever decision is appropriate under our rules.
Mr. President, I sympathize with you. As a man being accused of sexual harassment, I am not going to comment on that because there will be an ample opportunity for the relevant authorities to deal with that. But I know, dear colleagues, that distinguished Senator Natasha went to court on a matter, then appeared on Arise TV on another matter, talking about sexual harassment. And the wife of the President of the Senate, Mrs. Uloma Akpabio, on behalf of the family, the children, went to court, and parties have been served on allegation of sexual harassment. So it is important for the public to know.
Given the clarification, the Senate proceeds with the business of the day. Upon adjournment, the President of the Senate announces the immediate commencement of the probe by the Committee on Ethics and Code of Conduct. After an hour of waiting, the committee proceeds with the investigation.
Our distinguished colleague, Senator Natasha Akpoti Uduaghan, was properly notified of this meeting, and I'm hoping that she will be here to give us her side of the story.
Witnesses testified before the committee.
One of my staff, in person of Sandra, she told her, as I directed them, that this your seat had been moved to so. She said, where? I said, you have moved to that place. She said, no. Please, over my dead body, I will not be there.
Other members of the committee also make imputes.
It is the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It is therefore our responsibility to protect that institution. The moment we all or anybody pisses in the communal pool, we have a problem.
The petition she presented today is actually dead on arrival. And I say that because it runs contrary to Order 40, subsection 4, that no senator may present to the Senate a petition signed by him or herself.
Now, after testimonies from 2 senators and a sergeant-at-arms, the Senate Committee on Code of Conduct, Ethics and Privileges went behind closed doors to collate all the accounts, and it is expected to submit its report in a few days. From the National Assembly, Gloria Omezuke, Channels Television News.
Away from the happenings at the Senate now to Rivers State, where the House of Assembly has threatened to arrest the chairman of the Rivers State Independent Electoral Commission should he fail to appear before the House on Friday. This followed a motion by Honorable Enemi George that the RISEC chairman and his commissioners be summoned to appear before the House to answer questions about the finances surrounding their conduct of last year's council elections and their plan to conduct another election this year.
At today's plenary at the Rivers State Assembly, Honorable Enemi George moves a motion to summon the RISEC chairman and his commissioners over last year's council election.
Mr. Speaker, recall that the reason why the Supreme Court annulled that election was because it was not in consonance with the Electoral Act. This House came here and agreed that we should immediately amend the law to be in consonance with the Electoral Act. Mr. Speaker, to sadden you and wrench your heart to know that just a few days ago, the Rivers State Independent Electoral Commission has gone ahead to announce that they are beginning the process to conduct another election. That is why I'm bringing this motion, Mr. Speaker.
The Speaker then instructs the clerk to write the RISEC chairman to appear before the House on Friday by 10 a.m.
By resolution of this House, the clerk will include in the letter that if the chairman and the commissioners fail to appear before this August Assembly, the House will be left with no other option but to invoke its powers vested in us in Section 129 of the 1999 Constitution to issue a warrant of arrest to compel them to appear before this August Assembly.
Next, the leader of the House raises a motion over 19 commissioners he says are illegally serving in the cabinet without being screened by the Assembly.
There are many impostors who parade themselves today as members of Rivers State Executive Council who were not screened and confirmed by the Rivers State House of Assembly. Mr. Speaker, this infraction has made Rivers State a laughing stock in the Committee of Hope.
This motion is supported by Honorable Wellington, who laments the absence of an Attorney General in the state. The Speaker criticizes the Attorney General, saying he's an impostor. He also gives the Governor 48 hours to submit the names of the 19 commissioners to the Assembly for screening, failure of which the House will order their arrest.
The Governor of this state, who is now the nationally acclaimed dictator of our time, going by the judgment of the Supreme Court and other pronouncements of other courts, is still harboring this impostor who is parading himself as the Attorney General of Rivers State. This individual is moving from one court to the other, claiming to be the Chief Law Officer of Rivers State, whereas he is not known to law. He is misleading the public, misleading Rivers people, and we will give the Governor 48 hours to immediately forward a list of nominees for appointment into the Rivers State Executive Council as commissioners.
All eyes are on Friday to see what the outcome of both ultimatums will be. Charles Oporum, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, the River State government says it is yet to receive resolutions from the State House of Assembly regarding a recent Supreme Court ruling. In a letter signed by the Secretary to the State Government, Dr. Tamida Nagogo, the State Government explains that as of yesterday, March the 4th, the Governor's Office, the Deputy Governor's Office and the Accountant General's Office had not received the official resolutions related to the February 28th Supreme Court judgment. This comes after Governor Siminalayi Fubara's public address on March the 2nd, where he reiterated his commitment to upholding the rule of law. The government's letter notes that despite any personal views on the Supreme Court's decision, the governor intends to implement the court's directives in the best interest of Rivers State. The government also states that its legal team is still awaiting a certified true copy of the Supreme Court judgment while assuring the public that the governor will act swiftly upon receiving the document. Staying with Rivers politics, the State Independent Electoral Commission, RISEC, has set August the 9th this year for fresh local government elections in the state. And this was announced by the chairman of the body today at a stakeholders meeting put together by RISEC in Port Harcourt, the state capital, where guidelines for the upcoming polls were unveiled.
By the combined effect of Section 150, Subsection 1 of the Electoral Act 2022, and Section 103, Subsection 1 and 3 of the Electoral Act 2022, which applies to Rivers State Independent Electoral Commission, by virtue of Section 50 of the Act, aforecited, RISEC is mandated to fix date of local government council elections, quote, on a date not earlier than 150 days before and not later than 30 days before the expiration or the terms of office of the holder of the office. On the strength of the above law and the state of authorities as decided by the Superior Courts, notably the Supreme Court of Nigeria, Section 90 of RISEC law, is to be subordinated or made subject to Section 151 of the Electoral Act 2022. In due course, RISEC shall take other legal steps prescribed in the Act to ensure a valid and faultless conduct of the 2025 local government council election.
In part two, after the break, Rivers State government hands over an AW-139 helicopter to the Nigerian Air Force to enhance security operations in the Niger Delta. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 Channels Television, broadcasted live from Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Drama at Upper Legislative Chamber as Senate committee rejects petition on alleged sexual harassment submitted by Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. Battle for the soul of Rivers politics continues as House of Assembly summons chairman of State Electoral Commission over the conduct of the 2024 local government elections, even as the commission announces date for fresh elections. Vice President Kashim Shettima performs groundbreaking ceremony for First Bank's 40-story new headquarters complex at the Eko Atlantic City. And U.S. officials confirmed that President Donald Trump has suspended intelligence sharing with Ukraine, in addition to the pause in military assistance. First Bank of Nigeria, West Africa's leading financial powerhouse, today takes a bold step in deepening its position in the provision of cutting-edge services with a groundbreaking ceremony for its new green certified iconic head office building in Eko Atlantic City in Lagos, of course with Vice President Kashim Shettima in attendance. Now, the 40-story edifice, which will be the tallest in Nigeria, is a symbol of engineering which will set a new standard for the financial services sector in Africa. The chairman of First Holdco, Mr. Femi Otedola, in his speech, appreciates the support of First Bank's customers and stakeholders who worked together and turned this vision into reality.
In the last 130 years, First Bank Nigeria PLC has dedicated itself to the provision of cutting-edge financial services and intends to keep this tradition with the groundbreaking of an iconic head office building in Eko Atlantic City, Lagos. Vice President Kashim Shettima is joined by other eminent Nigerians, including the President of Dangote Group, Aliko Dangote, Chairman First Holdco, Mr. Femi Otedola, former Senate President Bukola Saraki, state governors and business executives.
We are an institution with a proud heritage.
Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer, First Bank Group, Mr. Olusegun Alebioshu, in his welcome address, says this groundbreaking places First Bank as a bank for the future.
This new head office complex is not just about a modern architectural masterpiece. It is about reimagining banking for generations yet unborn.
Chairman First Holdco, Mr. Femi Otedola, in his address, maintained that First Bank will continue to invest in cutting-edge technology that will redefine banking across Africa and the world.
We shall continue to invest in cutting-edge technology, vibrant human capital, strategic partnerships, and customer-centric innovations that will define banking globally, even as we deepen our footprints across Nigeria and Africa in general.
At a ceremony like this, goodwill messages are not in short supply, and the first to speak is President Dangote Group, Aliko Dangote, followed by other guests.
I want to congratulate you and the entire board and management of First Bank Group and also First Bank for actually taking this bold move of building this massive edifice in the city of Eko Atlantic in Lagos State.
Femi, starting this structure is of prime importance. It is really the starting point of the vision of our president.
The proposed 43-story building headquarters of the bank, this by itself marks another first for the bank.
Host Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, in his remarks, promises to create a more conducive environment for the financial community to operate and hands over the certificate of approval for the construction to the First Bank Group.
To all of our other big financial institutions, First Bank, as usual, being the first bank in our country, has led the road. It is now time for all of you to follow suit.
Vice President Kashim Shettima commends First Bank for making Nigeria proud.
First Bank has extended its reach from Lagos to London, Beijing, and around major financial centers worldwide, proudly flying Nigeria's flag on the global stage. This tour will symbolize ambition and excellence in Eco-Atlantic. It will attract investment, consolidate Lagos' position as a leading financial hub, and showcase the dynamism of Nigeria's private sector.
Gentlemen of the press, please make space.
The 40-story building, upon completion, will accommodate offices, a 1,300 car park, and serve as an architectural landmark that will elevate the Eco-Atlantic City skyline and position First Bank as a 21st century financial solutions center for Africa and the world.
We're back in Rivers State, where the state government has officially handed over an AW-139 helicopter to the Nigerian Air Force to enhance security operations in the Niger Delta region. The helicopter, which had been grounded since 2020, is expected to bolster tactical airlift, search and rescue missions and the protection of oil facilities in the state. During the handover ceremony at the Air Force Base in Port Harcourt, Governor Siminalayi Fubara described the move as a demonstration of government's commitment to safeguarding the state and the Niger Delta.
Governor Siminalayi Fubara, the Chief of Air Staff, senior Air Force personnel, service commanders are among the dignitaries present at this official handover ceremony of an AW-139 helicopter to the Nigerian Air Force at the Air Force Base in Port Harcourt, Rivers State. The aircraft, previously owned by the Rivers State government, had been grounded since 2020 due to contractual disputes as the managing company failed to remit funds to the state government. Before the official signing of the transfer documents, Secretary to the state government describes the handover as a landmark effort.
What we're about witnessing now is yet another landmark effort of His Excellency the Governor of Rivers State to bolster the security of the state.
Following the signing, the official transfer documents are handed over to the Air Force representatives, officially transferring ownership and operational control of the AW-139 to the Nigerian Air Force. The Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Hassan Abubakar, commends the Rivers State government for what he calls a bold initiative by the state government at improving security in the Niger Delta region.
The Augusta 139 helicopter will significantly enhance our operational capacity, particularly in tactical airlift, search and rescue, as well as disaster relief missions, which is advanced avionics, high-speed capability and versatility. This platform will improve our ability to conduct rapid response operations.
In his address at the event, Governor Fubara emphasizes that the handover is not political, but a genuine gesture to enhance national security.
Our only request is that this donation should be adequately and effectively used to secure life, to secure assets, and majorly operation in Rivers State and Niger Delta at large. So I'm happy that we are doing this today, officially handing over this assets of Rivers State government to the Nigerian Air Force.
As As the helicopter AW-139 is handed over to the Nigerian Air Force, the governor is urging that the chopper be deployed primarily in Rivers State and across other Niger Delta states for security operations.
In Enugu State, Governor Peter Mbah has appealed to investors to support the State Security Trust Fund, which will enable government fight insecurity and make Enugu the premier destination for investment. Now, Governor Mbah was speaking when he received 4 vehicles donated by the Chief Executive Officer of Innocent Motors to the Enugu State Security Trust Fund. While commending the CEO of Innocent Motors, Innocent Chukuma, the governor promised good use of the vehicles and ensuring security of investment, lives and property. At handing over of the vehicles, Mr. Chukuma noted that Governor Mbah's administration had made Enugu increasingly conducive for investment, pledging support from manufacturers in the state.
Everywhere is working, so I feel to come and support his security trust fund so that everywhere will be well secure, everybody will be happy. Because we that doing industry in Enugu, we are now happy for what we are seeing. And he promised a lot of things to happen here by giving gas, to make gas available for manufacturers because of situation of the electricity. So today, governor had promised me that in a short time, gas will be everywhere.
We appreciate him greatly for giving the State Security Trust Fund, providing them with 2 pickup vehicles and 2 crossover vehicles. And that essentially enhances our capacity to fight crime and to ensure that the investing community and the investors are safe and secure in Enugu.
Still ahead on the news at 10, Nigeria achieves new milestone in power generation, hits over 6,000 megawatts. That's in business news. Please join us again. Welcome back. So let's now head to the nation's capital where Terry Kumi is standing by to give us the latest from our Abuja studios. Over to you, Terry.
Well, thank you very much, Ayo. And on a sad note, in Kaduna State, a Catholic priest, Reverend Father Sylvester Okechukwu, who was kidnapped by bandits in Kaura local government area on Tuesday night, has been killed by his abductors. The late Reverend was, until his death, the priest in charge of St. Mary's Catholic Church, Tachira, in Kaura local government area. Police authorities have confirmed the incident. The command spokesman, Mansur Hassan, told Channels Television that troops of the command have been deployed to the area and neighboring communities with a view to arresting the mastermind of the murder of the priest. Also in a statement on Wednesday, the Chancellor of Catholic Diocese of Kafanchan, Reverend Father Jacob Shanet, said the late priest was kidnapped from his home at about 9 p.m. on Tuesday, March the 4th this year, and was later killed in the early hours of Wednesday, March the 5th. Which coincided with Ash Wednesday. He said the reason for the brutal murder of Father Okechukwu remains unknown. The statement describes the late priest as a selfless servant of God who was dedicated to spreading the message of peace, love, and hope, noting that his death has left a deep void in the diocesan community. It also calls on the youth and community members to remain calm and steadfast in prayer, warning against any act of lawlessness in the face of the unfortunate incident. Well, still in Kaduna State, a federal high court has ordered the interim forfeiture of the sum of 1.37 billion naira allegedly diverted from the coffers of the state government into a private account during the administration of former Governor Nasir El-Rufai. The money allegedly diverted into an account belonging to Indo-Kaduna Mart JV Nigeria Limited was part of the funds released for a botched light rail project in Kaduna State during the past administration. The presiding judge, Justice H. Buhari, issued the forfeiture order on February 28, 2025, following an ex parte application brought before the court by the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission (ICPC), which traced the diverted fund to a private bank account. The judge also directed the ICPC to publish a notice in 2 national newspapers calling for persons, whether human, juristic, or artificial, have an interest in the property to show cause in court why the movable property should not be permanently forfeited. The case has been adjourned to April 8th this year for such interested persons who may want to claim the money to make their case before the court. Now, the Federal Executive Council has approved over 10 billion naira for the procurement of diagnostic kits for diabetes, antiretroviral drugs, and other drugs as part of a medical relief program. This was part of the resolutions reached at the Federal Executive Council meeting, which was presided over by President Bola Tinubu. The Council is also considering a proposal to reduce time spent on procurement and to make room for discussions on policy. Our State House correspondent, Larry Lasisi, has a report.
This is the second Federal Executive Council meeting this week and the fourth for the year.
Observe a minute silence in honor of the departed former FEC members.
The first item of the day, once President Bola Tinubu arrives, is to observe a minute silence for two former cabinet members who recently passed, Mrs. Adenike Oyagbola and Chief Edwin Clark. At the conclusion of the meeting, some ministers outlined key decisions taken, one of which is the approval of over 10 billion naira for the procurement of medical kits and drugs.
Nigeria is putting forth resources, almost 997 million naira worth of contract to procure the third-line antiretroviral drugs for those who are HIV infected. So federal government is procuring 2 billion naira worth of those diagnostic kits out of this total amount that I had mentioned. So antibiotics, antihypertensives, and anti-diabetic medications beyond the test kits. Those are also worth 4.5 billion naira, which will be procured and distributed to help lower the cost.
Over 13 road projects were also approved.
Review and rescoping of, Uturu Isukuato Akara Road in Abia State. And so we got, review the contract to be phased, phase 1 and 2. So phase 1 is to be completed within 6 months in line with available fund for a contract period of 5.926 billion.
One consideration said to have been led by the president is the need to have council meetings focus more on policy.
In the last 4 council meetings, we've taken over 141 council memos. Now, the idea of Federal Executive Council is that policies discussions should dominate Federal Executive Council discussions, and contracts or procurement issues should be largely be sorted out at the ministry level so that we can free council.
He said the Director General of the Bureau of Public Procurement and relevant ministers have been tasked with working out the details. From the presidential villa, Lanre Lasese, Channels Television News.
That's the much we can take from the nation's capital. The rest of the news continues in Lagos with Ayotunde Balogun.
Thank you so much, Terry. Christians all over the world have started their 40 days of fasting and prayers with the celebration of Ash Wednesday. It's a day used to pray and recall the mysteries of Christ. Within the period, Christians are called on to pray and be involved in almsgiving as the day begins with the placing of ash on the foreheads of Christians around the world. Our next report reveals how the solemn day was marked here in Nigeria.
Ash Wednesday is a day of obligation for Christian faithful, which signifies the beginning of the Lenten period. The holy day of obligation starts with the dissemination of ash on the foreheads of the faithful. For many Christian leaders, it's a time to seek God's grace for the country and make prayers for peace amongst Nigerians.
Not only do we receive ashes on Wednesday, but that we begin the period of Lent, which is characterized by self-denial, more intensive prayer, and a greater readiness to do charity.
In Imo State, Governor Hope Uzodimma calls on Christian faithful to rededicate themselves to God during the 40-day fasting period. The chaplain of the Imo State Government Chapel, Reverend Father Gilbert Alaribe, urges Christians to embrace love, unity and almsgiving, which are essential practices during Lent, in line with the teachings of Jesus Christ.
Lent is a special season that the church invites us to try to purify the soul through the discipline of prayer, fasting, and almsgiving.
In Ondo State, Christians have been admonished to re-examine themselves and turn to God in sincere repentance from worldly ways.
Let us re-examine our lives. Are we living according to the way of God? Then let us look at what we have also contributed in our own way to the problem that we have in Nigeria today, and begin the change from our own hearts, from our own home. And then, by the grace of God, Nigeria will change for better.
On his part, the Enugu State Governor calls on residents to imbibe peace and sacrifice throughout the Lenten season and beyond.
I call on our people, the people in Enugu State, and of course the country at large, to not only imbibe these values of sacrifice, moderation, empathy, and almsgiving, but to also carry on with it beyond this season.
The call for more steadfast prayers within the period in preparation for Easter is resounding as worshippers in Plateau State gather to celebrate the day.
It is the season of Lent again, a time for penance, fasting, intensive prayers, and total spiritual regeneration.
The significance of Ash Wednesday as a holy day of obligation for Christian faithful continues for the next 40 days and will come to an end with the celebration of Easter, as many Christians are called on to pray for family and loved ones.
Business News is up next with Will Ibo. Will.
Thank you, Ayotunde. Now, Nigeria set a new record in power generation, reaching 6,003 megawatts on March the 2nd, 2025. The Ministry of Power, which confirmed this milestone in a statement, says the country also reached a peak generation evacuation of 5,801.84 megawatts and a daily maximum energy output of 128,370.75 megawatt hours. These achievements mark significant progress in the country's efforts to improve electricity supply. According to the ministry, the increase reflects ongoing reforms in the sector and the government's commitment to ensuring stable electricity. The Minister of Power, Mr. Adebayo Adelabu, says this is a step towards meeting the nation's growing energy demands and boosting economic growth. Now, oil prices fell for a third consecutive session on Wednesday as investors worried about OPEC Plus plans to increase output in April and escalating trade tensions following U.S. tariffs on Canada, China, and Mexico. Brent crude dropped by 2.55% to $69.23 per barrel, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate WTI fell by over 3% to $66.20. Prices hit multi-year lows earlier in the session before recovering slightly after U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick hinted at possible tariff relief for certain industries. Meanwhile, U.S. crude stockpiles rose by 3.6 million barrels last week, far exceeding analyst expectations. Back home here, we see the domestic equities market closed the midweek session with negative sentiments, notching a straight day of losses. Vladdy Williams tells us more.
Hello and welcome to the midweek trading day close. It's another day of profit taking by investors, with the all-share index moving further away from the 107,000 level, down 0.44%. Lesser drop than yesterday, over 0.5%. Market cap 66 trillion. Let's look at the sectors that we track now. We're seeing weakness across board. The banking counter 0.83%. Profit taking continues there, largely with consumer goods taking the biggest hit today, 1.51%. Marginal drop there for the oil and gas counter. So with what we're seeing so far this week, we see the tier 1 banks again down, with FBNH on change, 0.84% up for UBA, but that couldn't counter the losses with Zenith Bank there, 1.78% down. So what we're seeing so far, the first trading week of March continues in the red, tending to a weekly loss for the all-share index.
And that's a wrap on business. It's back to Ayatunde for the rest of the news at 10.
Many thanks, Will. Here's Simon Pusey with Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. US officials have confirmed that President Trump has suspended intelligence sharing with Ukraine on top of the pause in military assistance. It's a move that could have immediate and serious consequences for Ukraine on the battlefield in its war with Russia. Earlier, the US National Security Advisor Mike Waltz said Donald Trump will consider lifting the pause on military aid to Ukraine if peace talks are arranged and confidence-building measures are taken. Mr. Trump ordered the pause yesterday following a heated exchange between the US president and his Ukrainian counterpart Volodymyr Zelensky at the Oval Office. It comes hours after Mr. Trump told an address to Congress that he'd received a letter from Zelensky saying the Ukrainian president was ready to sign a minerals deal.
We are pausing, assessing, looking at everything across our security relationship, number one. Number two, the conversations that we've had, they've been tough, they've been difficult. And I think what Zelensky was used to hearing when he came here was as much as you want, as long as you want, to some undefined end, ill-defined success. And we have to ask ourselves, should this war continue for months and years?
China has warned the US it is ready to fight any type of war after hitting back against President Donald Trump's mounting trade tariffs. The world's top 2 economies have edged closer to a trade war after Trump slapped more tariffs on Chinese goods. China quickly retaliated, imposing 10 to 15% tariffs on US farm products. It is some of the strongest rhetoric so far from China since Mr. Trump became president, and comes as leaders gathered in Beijing for the annual National People's Congress. The UN's humanitarian agency says food prices in Gaza have spiked and aid food parcels could soon run out after Israel blocked the entry of humanitarian aid. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu chose to stop aid at the weekend, accusing Hamas of stealing supplies and refusing a US proposal to extend the Israel-Hamas ceasefire. A Hamas spokesman said the halt was cheap blackmail. Dozens of people in the Sudanese state of North Darfur are feared dead following heavy shelling on a camp for displaced people. The paramilitary Rapid Support Forces attacked a crowded market at Abu Shouk, a camp on the outskirts of the city of El Fasher, for roughly 2 hours. The camp is home to over 500,000 displaced people, and the assault on its market is the second in 3 days. Friedrich Merz, who's expected to become Germany's next chancellor, has announced a political deal to raise hundreds of billions of euros in extra spending on defence and infrastructure. Merz, whose Conservatives won Germany's election last month, said he and his likely coalition partners from the centre-left would put new proposals to Parliament next week. He spoke of the need for urgency on German spending in light of recent decisions by the American government. Merz did not elaborate, but he has been an outspoken critic of President Donald Trump's treatment of Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelensky in the Oval Office. Florida has launched a criminal investigation into British-American influencers Andrew and Tristan Tate, who flew to the state last week from Romania, where they faced rape and human trafficking charges. Florida's Attorney General said investigators have issued search warrants and subpoenas as part of a now active inquiry. In the US, the brothers also face a civil suit from a woman alleging they coerced her into sex work and then defamed her after she gave evidence to Romanian authorities. And the US actor Jesse Eisenberg has been awarded Polish citizenship by President Andrzej Duda after telling the story of the Jewish population during World War II in his Oscar-winning film A Real Pain. Eisenberg wrote, directed and starred in the film about two American cousins who traveled to Poland to honor their grandmother, a Holocaust survivor who was based on Eisenberg's own great-aunt.
It occurred to me while I was there that there are so many Polish people who are doing far more to memorialize my family history than I've ever done. And it made me feel that much more connected to the country.
And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.
Thanks, Simon, and welcome to Sports News. The Nigeria Premier Football League has announced that Lobby Stars will now play their home matches at the Nnamdi Azikiwe Stadium in Enugu after the club requested for a change from Abubakar Tafawa Balewa Stadium in Bauchi. With this decision, the club can no longer make a request for a change except they're returning to their Apiaku Stadium ground in Makurdi, the state capital. Lobby Stars will play their next home fixture against Ikorodu City this weekend. The news just in, FIFA has announced it will pay a total prize money of $1 billion to participants in the Club World Cup taking place in the US this year. The figure is significantly more than the prize money offered for either the last men's or women's World Cups. In a statement confirming the prize money on offer, FIFA said it is expected to generate $2 billion in revenues from the 32-team tournament. The Champions League gets attention next as Inter Milan's powerful strike duo of Marcus Thuram and Lautaro Martinez combined to give the Italians a handy 2-0 advantage over Dutch side Feyenoord in the first leg of the last 16. The French and Argentinian strikers proved the difference between the two teams. Will meet again in Milan for Tuesday's second leg with the winner of the Bayern Munich-Bayer Leverkusen German derby lying in wait. At the meantime, we hear Bayern got the upper hand, beating Leverkusen 3-0. Liverpool edged PSG 1-0, while 10-man Barcelona also recorded some scoreline over Benfica. Away from football world, athletics chief Sebastian Coe is satisfied with the progress made by Kenya in fighting doping after meeting with the country's governing body in Nairobi. Kenya has invested massively to clean up its image after a string of drug scandals around the 2016 Rio Olympics led to it being declared non-compliant by the World Anti-Doping Agency.
Maintain our education programs, online programs for the athletes. And I think there's a much broader recognition that we now have better systems in place and that we are moving absolutely in the right direction. And we're making progress. But I think we also recognize that if you accelerated the funding in this space and it allowed you to do more testing and more targeted testing, it was likely that the number of positives over that period were going to rise.
That's sports. I am Kelly. Again, guys, back to you.
Many thanks, Kelly. And the main news again. There was drama today at the Senate as lawmakers discussed the sexual allegations made by Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan against the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio. At the end of the day, the Committee on Ethics dismissed the petition by Senator Natasha, citing procedural violations and legal constraints. Also today, Vice President Kashim Shettima was joined by several dignitaries at the groundbreaking ceremony for First Bank's new headquarters complex at the Eko Atlantic City. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Ayo Tunde Balogun. From everyone here, do have a good night.